That's the really interesting one. Like, everybody wants to be in the NFC North. Like, just
how
get
sick
there.
would that be?
Yeah.
NBA, like, you move out of the West.
God, you're an innovator. Absolute innovator.
Yeah, you should be able to do that. Trade the 3-point line. Think how dangerous that would be.
Trade the 3-point line. Just play all your home games.
Yeah. I'd do it. What can I say? I'm an innovator. We are live. Awesemo.com. PGA live before lock. Happy Wednesday night, everybody. This is the Valspar Championship. We're back to Florida. We are ready to go. I am Ben Rasa. That is Eric Lindquist, my partner in crime. Sir, how are you this evening?
I think we're both lamenting kind of a lost day.
Oh my God.
Fortunately, the Sixers took care of business here as soon as we got some news Bogdanovich was out of there. I fired that off, but everything in the baseball world could not possibly be going worse here at the moment. So that's just kind of the way that it is.
It was an expensive afternoon for me. Bad things happened. Albany lost in lacrosse. It rained at Churchill Downs. There was major scratches there. Took it on the chin there. I bet the Pirates, they're getting rocked. We're going to take all that negative energy and we're going to put it into this golf show, and we are going to turn the tide because that is what we do here. And you know what else we got? We got our friends at Monkey Knife Fight sticking with us, even with my disturbing down streak. And the show, of course, is presented by them. If you haven't been over their player prop-based contests, everyone's talking about player props. They are one of the many ways to get exposure to them. Different kind of thing, not as big of a time commitment as the other DFS sites. And it's not just golf. They've got NBA, they've got UFC, esports, soccer. Get started. Go to monkeyknifefight.com. Choose what game you want to play, your contest type, your buy-in level, all the same stuff. And even better, it used to be a $50 match bonus when you deposit. It's up to $100 with the promo code Awesemo. So you want to go over there, get that $100, sign up, and grind it up, win some money, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You could bet it on the ponies for Saturday. We're going to be talking a little Kentucky Derby. I'll find it in the show. But you know what? Before we do that, let's get to waves. Let's get to weather. Let's get to withdrawals. All three of these categories, Eric, normally I say, yeah, we don't have much to talk about. We got a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, I think the COVID-19 situation right off the bat, letting it be known that if you're playing Tyrell Hatton, Will Gordon, Garnett, or Straka, you're probably getting a 0 because more than likely they're not going to play an individual 4-person golf tournament where it's just them out on the course. So I'm pretty sure you don't want them in your lineups. That's kind of important.
Big news. It looks like they got a minor situation. You know, a couple guys, Ty Hatton popped up late. And he's no longer there. He was certainly someone that I was very interested in. I think a lot of people were. It's a full 156, 154-man field, so this is going to be a very difficult putt. Do you see anything with the weather, though? Because you're going to have opportunities to stack those tee times. You have a lot of options in both waves.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Palm Harbor, Florida, which is where this is taking place, over at Innisbrook at the Copperhead course. Trying to find something a little bit closer to the course, but as it looks right now, nothing. It looks like the wind's going to pop up around 3 o'clock there on Thursday. On Friday, it's going to be right around the same. So I think morning tee times both days look like it's going to be what it should be. I guess there's like 0 wind starting off at like 7, 8 a.m. On Friday. So maybe a tiny upgrade to Friday a.m. and Thursday afternoon, but not enough to make it really matter to me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It looks like some minor, but you know what? When you're talking about edges like that, you're doing more harm than good if you're tinkering, in my opinion. Just let it fly. If you have enough teams, you can always stack a wave because things can pop up on the fly that we can't quantify and that we can't anticipate. But I'm not going to tweak much about that. I do want to ask you, though, kind of as we move on here, before we dive into the plays, I want to go to the Zurich results because we're coming off a team event. Cam Smith and Leishman, congrats to them. The South Africans lost, but normally we say, okay, this guy's coming in pretty hot. What do you do with the fact that part of the success could have been someone else with a golfer last week?
I think it's a little bit of the eye test, which sounds stupid to say, but there were certain golf shots like Louis played really, really solid until the playoff. I don't think there's much that you can really knock there. I think Schwartzel actually played much, much better than I expected him to in that spot as well. So you can give little upgrades here and there to guys. But for the most part, like you could watch some of that coverage and have a pretty good feel of who was comfortable. I'd say one guy that basically carried, and I think it's hopefully going to carry over into this week, a guy like Justin Rose, who came off of a great Masters performance, had been hurt on the front end of that, pulled out a top 10 there, led through the first 2 rounds at Augusta, and then came out, played well the next week. So I feel pretty good about somebody like him and kind of like factoring it here and there, but not getting crazy with it. I think we kind of know the guys who have like the 4-6 weeks of recent form that we want to be going to, and not trying to overcomplicate it by trying to figure out who was responsible for what.
Yeah, it is a little difficult. There is an element of kind of the eye test and, if you see a pairing, but it can flip. I will say, like, Nick Watney did a lot for Charlie Hoffman last week. There's some outliers there. I think the main thing is let's not overreact to 1 week in a wacky format. It's good to see guys playing well. If you like Dusty, you probably like him a little more, but at the same time, if a guy struggled and the cut was like 7 under last week because of, the best ball format, as we talked about, I'm not going to overreact. So is there anything else that you want to mention with Zurich, or do you think we're good to move on to Copperhead here?
Oh, just that my top 5 bet got a T8. So that was on fun with Peters and Lewis. And then my top 10 ended up shooting 6 over on Sunday. That was Hovland and Ventura. So other than those 2 fun results, I think I had a pretty decent week. I only had 2 lineups out of like 240 get through on DraftKings, but that worked out well enough. Yeah, I was going to say I was basically at the field on that, and I had one of them that broke away for a little bit. So ended up being profitable in DFS and actually lost in the betting card, which is kind of the inverse of what I've been writing for the last couple weeks.
It was a weird week for me. Euline was fantastic. I cashed that top 5 at 16-1, and that was huge. I didn't play in my, it was my girlfriend's 30th birthday, so I took the week off, and I only made 20 lineups, and I had 2 6-6s. So I was kind of kicking myself because I had a really good core. I didn't have the perfect combination, so I made some money, but I did not play nearly the same volume that I normally do. So we're slowly tweaking it back up, and that's a perfect segue. Let's get to Valspar. Let's get to the snake pit, as Chad is talking about. I'm pro all animal theme courses, bear traps, snake pits. I don't really care. Let's do it. And we got some players here, man. I was actually pretty excited to see JT, to see DJ, Hovland, Reed, and Casey right up top. So what are your thoughts about these high-end options?
I mean, if you go over, we have the PGA Pro plays that you can kind of see what all of our GPP exposure, where we're kind of leaning at for the entire week. I think it's pretty clear to see that Justin Thomas is standing above the rest, and I think rightfully so. Just a phenomenal all-around golfer. There's really nothing you can possibly peg in his golf game. If he decides to go out and play well, there's nobody in this field that's going to beat him, and that includes Dustin Johnson, who is the number 1 player in the world and actually projects out phenomenally well as well. The only problem with that is that you're giving up a lot by paying over $11K for them and starting your lineups in that direction. There's so many good 9K plays that we're going to be focused on to kind of round out our builds. But Justin Thomas, if I'm paying up for anybody in this field whatsoever, I'm going for the best iron player on the planet.
Agree. We just had that question, friend of the show from Ricky was asking, like, in a single entry, what do you plan to do? I plan to get Justin Thomas. I think it can be done pretty easily. Straka was some of the value that I wanted, but there's enough players down there that I can find someone. And I do think that JT, the formula, I know this sounds counterintuitive. This is one of the only courses where I want good iron players who are also good around the green players, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. If you're a great iron player, you don't need your around the green game because you hit all the greens. Here, that's almost impossible. And JT possesses both of those. He's a great, great wedge player. It's more his driving that's been off, and I think that will be mitigated here. But as you look down, I know this also sounds kind of crazy. Are we overlooking the guy who is the 2-time defending champion, Paul Casey?
Yeah, we probably are. He's going to go for the 3-peat, which hasn't happened for a decade on a single golf course on the PGA Tour. There's something good that happens to him every single week. I believe he had bad form coming into his win last year and just came out of it. Didn't even matter, just kind of recaptured everything out there. There's certain golf courses where you just have that good feeling on. And if you win back-to-back on the PGA Tour at the same spot, you obviously really, really enjoy going there. The big problem there is that you also have to count in recent form. And also, I don't think Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson were in the field for either of those wins. And so when you're talking about the strength of the field, I feel like it's pretty elite comparatively to previous years. They switched it from the schedule from March to April here. So I'm curious if that has something to do with it too. But when you have other players in the field like Justin Thomas and Dustin Johnson, Victor Hovland, some of these elite players, that definitely makes it more difficult to three-peat.
No, I mean, yeah, listen, you're talking about golf. It doesn't really matter the field. Anytime you're asking someone to win a third straight time. And Paul Casey clearly likes this course. He's playing good. There's nothing wrong with the play. He's obviously getting the two-time champion bump. I think you're most likely overinflated. But I will say the ownership right now on a guy like Paul Casey is not crazy by any stretch. It's not like he's 35% owned. We have him in maybe the teens, maybe even a little lower right now. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't mind it. I think the guy that gets lost a little is Patrick Reed. Don't mind going to him, especially this is a very difficult course relative to what they see on tour. He's more to me a grinded out type player. Is that the Reed, not pun intended, no pun intended. Is that what you see with Patrick Reed?
I hate rostering him because
everybody does.
It's Patrick Reed, but he's my third highest owned golfer this week. Everything sets up so well for him here. You want to talk about elite around the green game? One of the best short games on planet Earth. Routinely a guy that can get super, super hot with a putter. I like everything. He profiles very, very well on this golf course. And I wish there was something that I could poke in his golf game that I wouldn't want to have be a part of. So if you have something like that for me, I mean, strokes tee to green, there's been times where he's had some issues there, but again, so many of the times that you've seen him win, like when he goes out to a tough golf course like Torrey Pines, he's just getting up and down from everywhere. And he's the kind of guy who can put up a number on any golf course.
Comes ready to play. He grinds, everything that I like. Elite putter. I mean, I think if I was going to poke holes, his iron game long-term is not nearly as good as the best in the world, but he makes up for it in other areas. We had a question from Chad. I think it's somewhat relative here. Is it crazy to fade the 10 and 9K guys and go with like 4 8K guys? Is it crazy? I would say no. It is a little aggressive because you're sacrificing a ton of win equity. You're ruling out like 10 elite players. If you survive that, it can be done, but you could be completely torched if one of them wins.
So I'm curious what you think about this too. This is something I've been thinking a lot about this week. So we bet names and we bet numbers when we're betting people to win outright. But when you look at top fives and top tens, I feel like it's so specific. Like Vegas does such a good job of capturing, like they're obviously raking in money on those bets on the daily. And so like, yeah, maybe you're not targeting Justin Thompson to win the golf tournament and betting him out right there, but like his ability to top 5, top 10 can just bury you if you don't have him in a certain lineup on a week like this. And there's just too many of those guys in that upper 9K range, whether it's Corey Connors, who just luck boxes every single week, whether it's Dustin Johnson, who's the number 1 player in the world and is just elite in every regard, Paul Casey with amazing course history, Louis Oosthuizen, who we've been playing routinely every week, Abraham Ancer, who's one of the best off the tee on planet Earth. Like there's so many guys with such top 10, top 5 potential that you're giving up a lot of that upside in your lineups by just starting in that 8K range, because you really need everything to go right then and everybody else above them to fail. Simple as that.
No, I totally agree with that. I was distracted by our MMA guy, Jason Floyd, hopping in, giving you the Stipe Miocic look. That's hilarious. I've never thought about that. And I'm becoming quickly an MMA fan. I watched that full card and watched all my money get destroyed when Zhang's head got kicked. So that was unfortunate. But we move on to the leverage value. And this is the range I think we need to target, because we've talked about these 10K guys. Everybody knows they're the best in the world. There's a large batch, even with Hatton out, the 9K range is absolutely stacked. You started with Scheffler. You mentioned Connors and Usti already. Ancer, I think, fits this course immaculately. Sunjay is there, Neiman and Henley. I honestly could make a case for every player, but you can't do that. Do you have a priority in this range? Or are you looking to possibly start in the 9s?
I think kind of my tiebreaker for everything is just seeing how good certain guys have been putting in recent weeks. And that's where Sungjae Im and Joaquin Niemann kind of jump out over the last 6 weeks. 3.6 strokes gained putting for Joaquin Niemann. Again, his big major issue that I have is that he's just not good around the greens. I mean, he needs to go to the school of Victor Hovland learning how to chip. or something, because that's kind of been an issue for him of late. But Sung JM, you look at his strokes gained total over the last 6 weeks, 8.3. That's a massive, massive number that I'm kind of looking at to be capturing on this kind of a slate. Positive, if you talk about an all-around golfer, 3.1 strokes gain off the tee over the last 6 weeks, 4.3 tee to green, decent enough around the green, positive in that regard too. Like Sung JM kind of checks all the boxes. You're getting him in a low 9K price tag. I'm starting a lot of my lineups like with JT and then going to M and then dropping down from there. I think it's still possible to fit in a guy like Henley, who's right below him at 9K. And everybody knows I play Henley every single week at this point, if you've been tuning in. A guy that can really spike an upside with a putter. Phenomenal iron player over the last 6 weeks as well. Strokes to gain, tee to green, positive in every regard. So he's trending up as well. Who's that kind of your preference down there too? Or I know you were talking a little about Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, so Scottie Scheffler, I do think is going to create. I'll be honest, my original plan has been changed a little bit because I thought that Hatton would gravitate ownership in the middle and Paul Casey would gravitate ownership a little north, and Scottie Scheffler would be absolutely dead. And that's the case to an extent, but Paul Casey is not mega chalk right now and Hatton's not playing. So it's derailed that a little bit. I do think still being sandwiched between Casey and Connors is a great spot for him. Played well with Bubba last week. He's a great driver of the ball. He's going to have to make some putts, but everyone has to do that. There's no doubt. And I'm with you on Henley. I think Henley's a guy, all of us at Team Awesemo, including Awesemo himself, with some of the new tools that he's put out, has identified that Henley's ball striking is up there with the best in the world. And I know that is weird because Henley's not regarded as that type of player, but he's coming off a Heritage where he gained 8.5 strokes with the approach. And he does that, I'm not going to say frequently, but it happens. He's an elite ball striker coming to a course at Bermuda. I like Henley at flat 9. I don't know if I'd start there, but what a great second man in.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that I feel like has just such high win equity compared to what everybody else believes that he does. And that fact alone makes me want to go overweight every single week, because when you do win with him, you're going to get him at a fraction of the ownership he should have.
What I do want to ask you about Abraham Answer, who's another player that, again, I think he's not doing anything wrong. The guy's making cuts left and right, coming off an 18th at Heritage. We just haven't seen him, I don't want to say breakthrough because it's very difficult to win on tour, but he's just kind of almost becoming a cash type play. He's cashing top 20 tickets, but is he really giving you a ton of top 5 equity, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I love Abraham Answer. I've been playing him probably more than I should have the recent weeks. I think that's probably the right way of saying it. He's kind of been the cashy guy. He hasn't really got himself in the mix. We're kind of looking for him to put up some of those better rounds to put himself in position. I mean, 69, 66 starting off at the Heritage, then flatted out 70, 70. Looking at the Masters, he shot the 69 second round, but was never really in the mix there, especially after a 75 in the third round. Like if you were to get himself into the mix, he's really kind of interesting, but hard, like just not to poke any like holes in his golf game, but there's a number of things that I just have issues for him being around the green. Like, you talk about it kind of being redundant to target guys who are ball strikers and around the green. Well, that's definitely where he's lacking, is around the green, some of that short game utility in the last 6 weeks. I like going kind of to other pieces in that price range as well. I was originally going to bet Answer to win outright, but those are kind of my concerns where he just doesn't get in the mix very often lately.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know he's got the talent to win. There's no doubt. It's just, I'm not sure exactly. I'll be comfortable if I land on him, but I don't think that, Sanjay's right there. I like Scheffler. Ty Hatton was going to be somewhat of a priority potentially for me. So I have to move those shares. Certainly that's not a good thing for Answer because there's going to be a lot of people, not a ton of people who built, but enough that just say, oh, I'll just play Answer. He's right below it. Easy enough. I'm not going to derail my lineup. So he's going to get some bump of ownership there. Anything else in this kind of second tier before we move into, we're going to get into the 8s. We're going to do it make the cut style, which is when it gets a little dangerous.
Yeah, I'm excited for it this week because I think there's you're going to win and lose a lot in this 8K range. I think you can kind of spread it around in the 9Ks, and it's hard to really, as you said, there's a case to be made for so many of these guys that, you're going to have to get the right combo there, but like making some stands in the 8K range is really where it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, no doubt. That's where I think this tournament is going to be won and lost. And that's what we're going to do. Before I get into that, though, I mentioned this in chat, but I just want to point it out. Our pro plays, as Eric talked about, they're actually free today. So you can go and check them out. You get an idea of what we're all about. Like I said, it's not the end all be all, but it's a useful tool if you're between two guys and you say, wow, Eric and Jason and Alex, they all really like this guy. Well, that's probably a pretty good indication to bump him up. If you see that I like him, you might want to reduce that exposure, but you win some, you lose some.
Stop it.
We also have extremely important. I'm wearing a shirt with a horse on it for a reason. Kentucky Derby is this Saturday. If you are not betting it, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Everybody should be betting the Kentucky Derby. It's a great tradition. Run for the Roses, first Saturday in May. I cannot wait. Maybe my favorite sporting event of the year. I have content posted. Me and Josh Engelman's Contenders video comes out tomorrow. My article will be posted, and on the Awesemo homepage, we've got some promos running. If you want to sign up, with TVG and whatnot, we've got some things going on. Very exciting stuff. So get on in there. It's a good time, and Slack is going to be off the chain. I cannot wait for Slack on Saturday. You may be going to possibly get some horse bets in yourself. Are you not?
I think I might be having to make the drive. So I'm in LA. I got double vaxxed a couple weeks ago. I'm all set to go out into the world and go see what's out there in the old Las Vegas, which I have not frequented in quite some time.
I respect it. I really hope you do it.
I think I'm going to have to Friday. The thing is, I have a baseball show Saturday, Sunday. I have a live before lock Friday. So I think if I do it, I'm going to have to pull the trigger Friday morning so I don't get stuck in traffic going out there. But
no.
I have so much stuff to go utilize over at the Wynn. So I need to go cash some tickets and just put it right back into play with your tutelage.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to get it going. So stay tuned for that, chat. We're going to have some fun with that. Let's go to Make the Cut, though. We've got a lot of names here. So I am going to throw out 3 names to you. I just want your thoughts. If you think any get clipped, if you like any, here we go. We're going to start in the upper 8s. We're going Bubba Watson coming off a good week with Scheffler, Justin Rose coming off a good week with Stenson, and Jason Kokrak coming off a good week with whoever he played with. Can't remember. What do you make of them? Kokrak's going to be chalk. Do you like these guys in the upper 8s?
Yeah, I mean, I like all 3. I like the way you put that even more. I can't even remember who Kokrak was paired with. That's not a good sign for Mr. Kokrak. But I like all 3 for the most part. What I find fascinating is Bubba Watson is really low owned.
Oh, yeah, true.
And this is the kind of spot, like, if you were to just tell me a golf course where you need to be creative, where you need to just kind of like find golf shots where, you talk about getting up and down. And the argument you can make for everybody is, they need to have a hot putting week. Well, yeah, to win a golf tournament, you're generally gaining strokes putting. So he's the one guy who's kind of negative between 9,500 and Jason Kokrak, kind of like right in that midst, all the way down to actually Emiliano Grillo is your next negative guy, obviously. But I think Bubba Watson should be higher owned than what he is right now. I gave him a little bit of a manual bump from Awesemo's projections earlier when we were running stuff. I was getting to around 7%. And then I dropped him out of my pool. And now I'm going to put him back in because I thought that possibly his ownership was going to jump above 3% that we have him for. That's just way, way, way too low for another guy with win potential. And I think that has to do with 8,900 is not a number you feel comfortable paying for Bubba Watson, especially when we had 7,800 at the Masters, 7,300 at the Players. It just seems like a bigger number. So Bubba Watson, that's about as much time as I anticipated talking about him. But Justin Rose, just been really, really good form. 11th at Zurich, obviously partnered up and made that work. But at the Masters, 65, 72, 72, got off to a really good start, put himself in contention and, couldn't finish the deal, but getting himself into the mix. And when Justin Rose starts getting himself in the mix, he's a guy that I kind of generally start to roster a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Justin Rose, been there, done that many a times. We know that. It's more a question, does he still have it? And it seems like he does. Now, the putter does carry him a little too much at times for my liking, honestly. I mean, even at the Masters, he was making everything. But he can do that. There's no doubt. Bubba's an interesting one. Is this a Bubba track? I would say no, to be honest.
Oh, really?
But,
okay.
At the same time, the thing that's drawing me in a little is I don't need to sacrifice a ton to possibly get leverage on Bubba. And the win equity for him travels, I think, pretty much everywhere outside of the British Open. And I just look at that situation and I think to myself, okay, If Bubba's going to be 3 or 4%, I'll take 2x at 6 or 8% and
That's
live with
exactly
it.
it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If he
that's
gets, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, that's exactly the kind of the deal is like you don't have to do much to get over the field on him, and that's the reason you're playing him. Everybody's a play at a certain ownership
Yep.
in the 8K 9K range. This is the kind of ownership where I'm going to be double Bubba automatically, I think.
Yeah. And it's the kind of situation, if Bubba was very popular, I would be shorting him. There's no way I
Fact.
would get over. It's that kind of situation. The hardest one for me is Kokrak. I love the way he's playing. I don't mind the spot. He had a hole in one here during his ridiculous. That was the peak of Kokrak's absurd run, was at the Valspar. I will never forget it. I just don't know if he is the true highest owned play along with Corey Connors if I'm going to be able to get over. I may come in around the field. I do think he gets through the cut. To me, Bubba's the most likely to miss the cut, even though I probably get over. That's where ownership comes into play.
Kokrak in cash and Watson in tournaments. Sign it up.
I like it. Moving down just a little bit, because again, the eights are a spot, where you really can play 3 or 4 of these guys if you want to. We've got Charlie Hoffman at 8,600, who's been playing fantastic golf. We've got Cam Tringale, who's been playing fantastic golf. And we've got Emiliano Grillo, who, dare I say, has been playing fantastic golf. So you've got 3 potentially chalky options in the mid eights. What do you do? Do you decide, how do you kind of prioritize these guys?
Yeah, why has Tringali never played well here? This is kind of a strange thing. I believe it was Jason Rouslin that was talking about it yesterday a little bit, where it's just kind of strange to see him have as poor of a course performance. Also, guy, I know that he plays out of Seminole, I believe, down in Florida. That he plays along with a couple of my buddies like Mike McCoy and stuff down there. So definitely should be having better results than he's had at this golf course. That kind of is a little bit of a trigger for me sitting around his current ownership. I think going to Palmer, going to Emiliano Grillo make better sense for me at the exact same flat ownership. I mean, we're seeing that kind of come in where you get to kind of pick your favorites. I know Grillo would be your favorite. If he ever knocks down putts, it's the same thing we said about Hideki before Augusta, where it's like, hey, if this guy ever makes putts, it's over. Well, same thing for Grillo, where if we can get that putter going, I believe he putted pretty well at Heritage. I mean, you had that nice little, you don't get second place on the PGA Tour by sucking at putting. That's difficult. But what were his numbers for putting at Heritage?
So at Heritage, he gained 7 strokes on the approach and another 4 off the tee. That's a good start. And he gained 1.5 strokes putting, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's one of his best in a long time. He's the type of player, if you give me 0 strokes gained putting, I'm taking it and I'm running to the window because his ball striking is that good.
Yep. And that's the reason you're playing Emiliano Grillo. And I think from any other perspective, like Ryan Palmer is fine. Not the most intriguing option in the entire world for me, but you got to be playing some guys in this range. I think for me, the major guy who's going to soak up most of that exposure is going to be Grillo as well.
Oh, no doubt that he's going to be the priority for me. The guy I'm struggling with the most is Charlie Hoffman. He's a pretty erratic guy. You see that in the course history. And a lot of people have that here because it's a difficult track. You're going to have some missed cuts. He's playing unbelievably good golf. The strokes gained approach have been fantastic. The putter's also been inflated a bit, though. He's putting very well. I worry a little bit if this becomes difficult. Can he handle it? But honestly, it is all systems go for Charlie Hoffman right now. And I think I'm going to get to a fair amount. And ownership, you mentioned, you're really choosing best available. All these guys are really sitting between like 10 and 15%. So you're not taking anyone as a direct pivot. You're kind of just playing who you want to play. For me, it's Grillo. And I think for you, it is also Grillo.
Yep, it's Grillo. And I think the major issue with Charlie Hoffman is I've been playing a ton of him, and I think we've talked about him a lot on shows together, but the quality of this field is so different from what we've had in previous weeks. The Valero Texas Open, I'm not a Spieth guy. I was never going to go that direction. I basically started all my builds with Charlie Hoffman and moved on. He was kind of overpriced in that spot, 9,200 that week. He was 10-2 at Punta Cana. And if you throw out that 77 in the 4th round, he was the best player through 3 rounds there. I just gaining all the way around, one of the hottest iron players currently at the given moment. But yeah, I think it's just going to be sensitivity to the quality of this field. And so he's kind of still coming in around like the ownership I was kind of expecting, that low teens. And I'm not super excited about it. I'm not against it by any means, but he's not as exciting as he's been in previous weeks for me.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel the same way. And again, it's difficult. I don't want to completely make aggressive stands because I do think these guys have some win equity with the form. But at the same time, you can't get over on everybody. So you have to prioritize. And that's kind of what I'm doing. Our friend Nathan Joyce, who does absolutely fantastic work behind the scenes at Awesemo, makes my articles look legible, asked why I don't have a Griot relic. I know after he wins, I'm going to get something, and I'll put it right below the Seinfeld picture. There's always more room for relics. That's what we're about. But moving down, we will get to Taylor Gooch in a second, I promise. But looking at, I'm going to throw Taylor Gooch in. I'm pivoting on the fly here. This is going to be
there
4.
we go.
So
just the worst putter in the world, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, elite ball striker, but he's in the same price range. He's flat 8K. And then we've got a couple guys that we definitely need to talk about at 7-9. We've got Keegan and Sam Burns, and also Lucas Glover. So this is a range I think a lot of ownership is going to come. Keegan has shown that he can handle this course and that he can blow up at this course, all in the same round, mind you. What do you do in the low 8s and the high 7s?
I think you play a lot of these guys. I think coming in lower owned than that mid 8K range, I talked about some of my concerns about Tringali, who's coming in at basically double the ownership of most of these guys on the top end. Gooch, we know what we're getting into. Like you're basically saying, please just stripe it for 4 days and just like make something happen on the greens. Just use a shovel and get it in the hole. That'd be great. Shovel. Yeah, the old shovel definitely works once in a while. I'm thinking about switching to a shovel after my SEGA mid-am performance. Good Lord. But that's a different story for a different day. Gary Woodland at 7,800 as well. I don't know. I feel like I've been over the field on Gary Woodland as well. Had some decent form there at Valero. Played in the Masters, played all right, made the weekend. Everybody makes the weekend at the Masters, except for, of course, Daniel Berger. That's also a different story for a different day. Cantlay. Oh, God, don't even. But here's the thing. He was never like in the realm. Like Daniel Berger let that thing slide in a painful, excruciating way on Friday. But yeah, I think at that upper 7K range, I'm kind of light on Streelman because he's coming in the highest owned out of everybody. And I don't see any difference between going to Sam Burns and Woodland from him.
Right in line. So I love the way, this is where I think you're going to get some pretty aggressive ball strikers. Keegan obviously is going to have to do it with the ball striking. He's one of the worst scramblers and putters on tour. Sam Burns is a similar model, so I don't mind pairing them up. And the thing I like about Gary Woodland, he's one of the players that I always tag as someone who benefits from a technical course. And that's counterintuitive because he's an aggressive driver, but he's forced to club down. And I think that works in his favor on some of these holes. And on the flip side, someone like Kevin Streelman, he's more to me, a wedge player where you're going to have some long iron shots because you really can't attack off the tee. To me, that's not Kevin Streelman's game. So I don't mind moving away from him. But the guy I want to ask you about, before the show we were talking, and I was mentioning, I like Lucas Glover, and I think a lot of people do. The form checks out. You mentioned to me that you are somewhat interested in a direct pivot at a significant discount, potentially in Charles Howell. I know you're still kind of weighing that play a little bit. Where do you stand on CH3 at certainly less ownership?
So I play a lot of lineups, but I think this week especially, I'm going to do some single entry stuff and get in some higher stakes things, take a stand on a couple of guys. And one of them that I'm really, really interested in, I think compared to the field, is Charles Howell, sitting at 7,700. He's basically been in better form than I think the public's really admitting, other than playing absolutely like garbage at Valero, which can happen to anybody. It's a golf course where you can make big numbers. Punta Cana 28th, that wasn't very impressive against a weak field, but top 20 at the Heritage, top 10 at the Players, both golf courses that are a bunch of water, bunch of issues that can exist there. Charles Howell, I just think that he's one of the better putters that's going to be around the field, or that's going to be in the field, like in respects to like where the public is basically valuing him at. I just am really, really curious to get your thoughts about it. I know that his approach game has been garbage even over the last 6 weeks, but even in those 6 weeks, he's had 2 top 20s. Like if he can just find a little bit of iron play, find a little bit of form there for a week, he definitely has some win potential, even top 5 potential for sure, which is kind of where I'm looking at betting him. But what are you thinking about CH3? So Chucky 3 sticks.
Yeah, Chucky 3 sticks. So it's interesting. I think the first thing is always to put in context of what you're playing and how many lineups you're making and whatnot. And for me, I don't know if I'll have enough room. Keegan, Glover, these type of guys are priorities for me. So I'm willing to sacrifice Charles Howell to get them. Now, if I have room, it's someone that, to be honest, I needed to take a closer. I never would have, looked at him in this sense if you didn't bring him up. And that's why I love doing this show, because he's made 4 or 5 cuts. And you know what? Yeah, he leaned on the putter at Heritage, but you know what? That's not a bad thing. He's a Bermuda guy. I always more target him in California. I think most people do. It comes down to the irons. The irons have been pretty strongly negative in the last 2, but he's got a lot of experience at Valspar. And I think on lineups, if I do go very generic, say I go JT and Sunjay and Keegan, like maybe I throw someone like that in to get direct leverage, because not a lot of people are going to go there. And I think that in large fields could be a way to really differentiate.
All right. Well, I did one thing right today. Well, we'll find out on Friday. We'll find out Friday. I was going to say, I don't want to necessarily like fall down with the CH3, the ship there. I don't want to sink with it, but I just feel like this is just way too low of ownership for a guy I think who's had better form than a lot of people above him. So that's kind of my feel for him.
And again, the nice thing, I always can't stress this enough. Charles Howell, no matter what happens, is not going to define your week. You're talking about getting leverage on a guy who's going to be 5% owned, and that's not a huge deal. Obviously, you don't want him to miss the cut if you're over, but you don't need to play 40%. That's just inappropriate amongst many other adjectives. So I wouldn't be doing that, but I don't mind taking a flyer. I certainly have some guys as we work down that I'm kind of interested in that may be egregious. Here we got a batch of putters, though, in the mid-7s. We've got Adam Hadwin, who's been doing it all with the short game. Denny McCarthy, who actually has been striking it a little better, but he always does it with the short game. And we've got Lanto Griffin, who's been very impressive. They're all in that mid-7s. What do you do about these type of players? They are stark contrast to the guys we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Lanto Griffin, another shovel putter. We got to get him a shovel. We got to figure out what to do with him over the last 6 weeks. I think that's just kind of what it is. I'm going to start shipping some long putters. We're going to get some sick putters. Those, they're literally called the sick putters. That's what Bryson's putting with here now. We got to figure out a way to just get the ball in the hole. I'm included in that regard. But I really like Lanto Griffin. Otherwise, pretty much everything else, tee to green, just phenomenal. In the last 6 weeks, somebody that I'm going to be getting to. I like how you didn't even bring up Kevin Kistner because he's been that bad. You're not even going to touch him this week because I feel like you're kind of a guy who's been overweight on him, just being like, he's going to bounce back. But you just skipped that name. That was kind of a glaring omission.
So my strategy with Kistner, and I've been doing this a little bit, and I'm content doing this, is I've been lightly, because he's 125-1, lightly betting him and going under, because his missed cut equity is the problem. He's just not making cuts. He's been terrible. I still believe that Kistner can flip a switch and beat a field like this. I know he can. But you don't want to be sacrificing lineups after lineups after lineups when you can play CH3, you can play Glover, you can take savings to Lanto, who I totally agree is primed, especially if he long-term. It's funny. I know you're ripping him with the shovel. Long-term, though, he's a good putter. I don't know what's happened lately. He's kind of in a whack-a-mole situation. The ball striking has improved and the putters regressed. If he puts it all together, watch out. But I want to ask you about one guy, and this is more philosophical, and feel free to dig into the play itself. What do you do when we have a Euro who we really don't know a ton about? Sam Horsfield is here. He's 7,400. Do you just say, I'm going to take a wait and see approach? Do you dig into the Euro numbers? How do you go about something like that?
I mean, he hasn't been good even in Europe. Am I looking at that correctly?
He's had some flashes, but it hasn't been sustained. No.
Yeah. And that's the issue. You need to be consistent when you're playing over in Europe against it's a weaker field. It just is. And you need to be finishing top 20s, top 25s routinely there. He has had flashes. So yeah, you can take shots there, but there's so many other proven entities around there. And I know that he's gaining some traction at the moment. And I think Alex's projections do a really good job of capturing kind of how poor of a play it is compared to other players in the range that play over here routinely. I'm not going to get to any, I don't think, this week.
Yeah, it's certainly not a priority for me. And I think there's just always an allure of, it's like he's a sneaky guy. I want to be first. Everyone wants to be first. It's all about that Twitter street cred. More often than not, that ends with nothing. So I'm going to more look down to the next range of guys who have been. Peter Euline is playing great golf. He won on the Korn Ferry Tour. He played great with Berinsky. I'm going to go to him. Noren is here. Doug Gim is just every week churning it out. Low sevens, the floor is yours. Any names that stick out for you?
Yeah, Doug Gim, 7,300, sitting in that range. Another shovel putter. I'm just going to play bad putters, I think, is what I'm starting to realize this week. And that's not really what I'm looking for. But if they're going to be able to hit the ball well, Doug Gim definitely have some interest going his direction. Peter Euline, I know Alex isn't necessarily all over that, but Peter Euline played really, really well at the Zurich again. I feel like he's more, I wouldn't say cashy because he's not owned whatsoever, but I get worried about him not necessarily having that top 10, top 20 viability. He's kind of a guy that maybe can go out, make quite a few birdies and just kind of like be your last guy in some lineups. I'm not like excited to be rostering him here, but Brandt Snedeker is, if I'm going to take some shots here. So I had brought him up. We had made fun of him before the Valero.
We did.
And then he goes out and he got sixth. Then he played decently well at the Heritage Golf Course that I think he's pretty well suited for. So maybe that's not great, but then he played pretty darn well at the Zurich. Him and Keith Mitchell did definitely outperform. They outkicked their coverage. Let's be serious. And I think there's something going on where Brandt Snedeker has been a world-class player over the course of a decade. Basically, he's been a top 10, top 20 player there. When you start seeing these guys start to get flashes back, maybe taking some shots at very, very low ownership isn't the worst thing to do.
No doubt. And this is the type of course, again, his off the tee game can be masked to some extent. Now, if he hits it in the water, it's over. But you know what? That's the same for most guys. And I think Noren falls into that bucket. I thought Noren actually played much better at Heritage than it seemed. He gained on both the approach and around the green, which is the combination I'm looking for. Doug Gim, I think, is the safest. I'll be honest. He's just kind of doing his thing. He's going to be popular. If I had to play a cash play here, it would be Doug Gim. But Sneds, Noren, and Euline, I don't mind it. I think you could go there. We did have a question about Danny Willett at 72. He was fine last week. He was good at Heritage, but it was all with the putter. He gained 6 strokes putting at Heritage, and that's what I'm worried about. His irons have been weak for a while now, and that's probably the big red flag for me.
And long term, he's basically a flat putter. He's basically right around zero. I don't mind it. I've probably played more Danny Willett than I should over the course of the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of guys that I have some buyer's remorse on. I think he's one of them until recent weeks where he's actually spiked some upside and I haven't played him. So that's enjoyable, but such is golf DFS. Yeah, it's really kind of what it is. I think I'm probably just not going to be going to that direction. Same thing with Zach Johnson. Like, we know he can go out there and string it together, but it's been really, really bad the last 3 weeks. I'm not really interested in investing there either. If I'm going to take a shot on anybody, it's got to be the Postman. I'm an absolute mark for this guy. Dude. Yeah. Dude, I hate myself. I hate myself is really what it comes down to. JT Poston. I can't get away from it. I can't stop. Addicted to the shindig. What do you think about JT Poston?
So it's the same thing every week. He's got a serious problem with his irons.
I know.
6 strokes at Heritage. Everything else was immaculate. He is in the bucket of a lot of players. Griot, if he gains 0 with the putter, I'll take it. Poston, if he gains 0 with the approach, which is really counterintuitive, I would take it because this guy can gain off the tee and he is an unbelievable putter. Yep. So that is what you're looking for. You can't survive on tour if you're losing 4 or 5 strokes on the approach. It's just not possible. So I see where you're going there. There's a lot of names. The one I want to bring up before we get to the deeper dive, we talked about the team right at the top. Charles almost won last week. Now you can say it was more Usti. You could say that Charles stepped up. Now he's 7,100 and Usti's a couple $1,000s more, as he should be. What do you do with Charles, though? Do you find interest because he lost in a playoff last week?
I mean, he's got great course history. I mean, he won out here. He won outright here in 2016. 2017, he had a, 6th? I know it was a top 10. So 2017. So that's back-to-back years. Has some decent enough course history here that I'm happy to take some shots on Schwartzel. And I know that it's a 2-man game, but he's kind of the eye test guy that I've kind of like, that I gave a little bit of a bump to this afternoon as I was going through some of my plays. Charles Schwartzel is somebody that I'm going to get to a lot more than what I was anticipating at first. And I think he's getting about appropriately owned. I think, right around 6% is where he should be. But I think I'll be just a tiny bit over top of the field there. It doesn't take much. And we're looking for some of these guys. If we're going to be playing JT, if you're going to be reaching up for Dustin Johnson, you're going to have to find some of these like high 6, low 7 guys. And I feel better about Schwartzel than I do a lot of these other dudes in this range.
You also, keep in mind that, and it doesn't always work out like this, obviously, but if the guys up top do what you want, the upside for all these guys is capped, because if JT wins, no one else can win. So you're really looking for made cuts in a lot of these situations. Like, you want your top 2 to capture, 2 top 5s. And if they do that, there's a lot less placement points total up for grabs, and you'll take a 33rd from your 7K player. So I don't mind doing that. I'm doing that with Luke List. He's another guy that is a forced carry type player, in the sense that I like that he has to club down. It keeps him out of trouble, and he's wildly erratic. He lost 5 strokes putting in his last time out, and he does that. Last guy, similar to Horsfield, but we saw him last week playing with Vaughn Taylor. Do you have any interest in Rasmus?
None.
Okay.
Absolutely none. I was getting some. So he snuck into my player pool. He was a complete accident. I'm just throwing that out there right now. If you go into our PGA, into our best plays, he was I think the only guy that I was really like, wait, why was he showing up in my pool as I was crunching at 4 a.m? I was watching Josh Engelman's strategy show and doing all my DFS research for golf here, and it was a good time, actually. I gotta say, I think these late nights, it got me prepared for tonight, when I know I'll be tweaking my lineups all the way up until lock over on the East Coast. But I'm definitely going to get to about none of him. I don't know much about him. I just didn't necessarily think that I had any room for him in my pool, and it felt like a wasted roster spot.
I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic, but I don't have a ton of interest this week. He's really like, this is, I'm not going to say prodigy, but he's really young. He's going to have to get some. I don't think he's ready just yet. Rooting for him, not going to be too important for me. So let's go to the deep dives. Before I do, though, chat, as I say every week, and I do mean it, it is so cool to see this show built up to what it is. It's great to have a lot of people in here every night. Chat is going. It makes it so much entertaining. I hope you guys enjoy the show. If you do, if you could hit the like button, it really helps us out. And subscribe. Hit that notification bell. We have so much content. Me and Matt Kajeski did an NFL draft show last night. I have Kentucky Derby content out. Obviously, NBA, MLB, all of that in full swing. The MMA guys have been killing it. I watched that show. I really enjoy it each week with Pete the Heat and Jason. So make sure to do that. And you guys stay upfront with what we're doing here at Awesemo by hitting that like button. It really helps us out. But let's go sub 7, because if we want to play JT, if we want to play DJ, or if we want to take a couple guys in the 9s, you might need some cheapies. So what do you do as we go down to the lower ranges?
Do we play Adam Schenk? Do we play Adam Schenk?
He was all right last week.
Yeah, he's okay. I'm really worried about his off the tee game, but if he can get off the tee whatsoever, gaining nearly 2.5 strokes approach over the last 6 weeks, pretty darn good recent form. Not great around the green, but not. It's basically flat with the field. Decent enough putter, but strokes gained total. I mean, he's been trending upwards there. Decent enough the last 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm starting to have quite a bit of Adam Schenk interest here, coming off the 25th at the Heritage. What do you think about him?
So I think that one of the issues that I ran into was I had a couple guys in that same range, and they are not playing in the tournament anymore. Bryce Garnett has COVID. Straka has COVID. It freed up some roster spots, and it was some permutations and builds that I was committed to. So I need someone in that range. Schenk, as you mentioned, he's been doing a little of everything, but his irons have flashed in recent weeks. So I don't mind going there if I'm in a jam. Kyle Stanley has been ice cold with the putter. He lost 9 strokes putting. Kyle Stanley had the rare 9 strokes lost on the approach and with the putter at the Players. The more I look at that, I'm not even sure how that's possible. But other than that debacle, he's been very good. He was very good at Valero, and at Heritage, he missed the cut, but he was still positive, almost 3 strokes with the ball striking. He just couldn't putt. So he's also at that price range. I think you could go there. It's tricky though. You've got Benny On at 66, Chase Seifert at 66. I mean, these are names. Troy Merritt at 65. I'm looking at these guys, but do I really want to be funneled down here? My honest answer would be no if I can avoid it.
I got one guy.
Oh
So
boy.
this might be my hot take. And I think I'm going to bet him for a top 10. But Camilo Villegas has been playing decent enough golf down there at 6,700, 25th at Heritage, 17th at the Texas Open. A guy that I generally cheer for a lot. But if you look at his strokes gained over the last 6 weeks, 6.7 shots per tournament is a large number to be getting on the field. Basically outperforming, so many players in the 7K range that's kind of ridiculous. I think he should have been a little bit more expensive than where he was priced this entire week. What do you think about Camilo? Because I think he's going to be somebody that I bet for a top 10.
I see that. I actually like him more as a bet. There was a player last week, and I can't remember who, that you also said that you liked as a bet. And I said I liked him more as a bet than a DFS play. And that's kind of how I feel about Camilo. It's nothing against that. I just think that I'm not going to say he's going to be overowned because none of these guys are going to be popular. But I look, his upside is there, and I don't mind it. I think that I'm going to spread pretty thin. Seifert burned a lot of people last week, and that is appealing to me. He just does his thing. He's got to be a better around the green player to compete here, and that's really my theme in the sixes. There's a lot of guys on tour who are down here that have never seen something exactly like Copperhead is no joke. This is a course you're not going to be doing streaks and bonuses. You need to grind out pars. You need to grind out bogey sometimes. It's a different type of golf, and that's where I worry a little about some of these guys who don't have that experience.
Yeah, and the reason that Villegas really sticks out, so he's a Florida Gator. That's forever ago, not that we're really looking at that. It's been a while, we'll put it that way, since his college days. But top 10 at the Honda, decent enough in some other Florida swings in years past. In and out of like having a bunch of status on tour. I don't know. It's just you're trying to grip onto anything that you possibly can at this range, trying to find any kind of either a narrative or something. But this is actually like data based. Like I feel like he's been trending up so well compared to like the rest of the field. And like a guy like Martin Laird has been pretty flat too. I think at 6,800, he would make a lot of sense for me too, because in the recent 6 weeks, basically gaining, 3.6, strokes gained total over the time over that time period. Like a guy like that, I could definitely take some shots on too. Just more consistent pieces that if you're going to get the win out of JT, if you're going to get the win out of Dustin Johnson, you want to be able to pair him with somebody that at least has like top 20 potential. And I think they're both playing well enough where they're going to get you more of a secure made cut than most guys in this range.
Yeah, that's really what, again, this is a full field. 6-6 is going to be really low. So if you can just get guys through, that's going to be huge. We had a question from Chad, Whaley or Campos. I guess I would say Whaley, but I'm really trying to avoid sub 65. I don't like anybody down there. Roger Sloan at 65 is probably as low as I would go. Is that anything else there for you really low before we move on?
I think if I did anybody, I'd play Joseph Bramlett at 6,300, at least been decent enough. I've actually seen his name circulating a little bit this week, which kind of is surprising because, he's under 2%, but decent enough results here. 34th at Valero, 13th at Putacana, which is a field you don't really read anything into, but a top 20 at the Farmers at a pretty difficult golf course in Torrey Pines as well. Like fire up a little bit of him if you're going to fire anybody under 6,500, but it is really, really bleak down here.
Yeah, I would agree. So let's move on. You've been firing off some bets. Do you have any bets for us this week?
I got 3 for you. I got 3 goodies. Let's
Great.
bring up the old pad and paper here. What was that?
Yeah, little 3-pack. I can get down with that. Why not?
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just like following suit. I'm trying to be like you and Josh, just have my 3. I've also really enjoyed not just betting a bunch of outrights, which has been nifty, but I got one outright. Russell Henley plus 3,300. He's not even necessarily my pick to win because Justin Thomas is my pick to win, but I'm not going to bet him at that number. I'm going to bet Russell Henley up at 33-1. Cameron Tringali is somebody that I just took off of my card, and I'm probably not going to be going that direction anymore. So I'm just going to take the 2-way with Chucky 3 sticks. If I'm really going to go there, I'm going to go there twice. I'm going to try to go for the double dip. I'm going to bet him outright. And then his top 5 is plus 1,300. I really like CH3 here. Pretty small betting card for me this week, but I think I'm kind of like saving myself up. We've got the PGA Championship coming up. We've got some other goodies coming down the pipeline. This is a golf course that I think I'm just going to really expose DFS and a little bit lighter on the betting side.
Yeah, it's not a huge betting card for me. Save that for the Kentucky Derby. That's the best betting thing of the week. I did look at some top 10s though that I was pretty interested in, and just I think pretty fair numbers when you go to oddshopper.awesemo.com and you shop it, as our man Jordan's got on the screen. Lucas Glover is plus 600 for a top 10. Keegan is plus 650 for a top 10. Sam Burns is plus 700 for a top 10. It's one of those bets where it's the kind of thing, if I bet all three, you only need to hit one. I feel pretty confident that one of those guys can land in there, coming out way ahead for odds that I think are very reasonable. And if you get two, you're absolutely crushing. So I look to that 6-7 to 1 range for guys like Glover, Bradley, Sam Burns, even Taylor Gooch is 7 to 1 as well. I think you could add a couple of those to the card, and all you need to do is hit one and you're coming out ahead.
I mean, that's pretty solid there. I like that
range.
Yeah, cast your net, cast in the direction you want, and go. Try to scoop.
No doubt about it. All right, it's that time. We have come to the end of the show. It's hot take time. We got to get, the tip-off show. They got all sorts of, this and that. There's dogs barking. There's all things. When I say hot takes, we're going to get sound. I'm making an executive decision going forward. We're going to get sound. Our man Jordan's going to work on that. But we don't have sound this week. That's just not going to happen. But do you have a hot take for us?
It'd be really impressive if he was able to get a
Imagine
campfire or something going in the background. Lava. If we got a sound effect, you can go ahead and fire it up if you find something in the time that we're stalling to get this. Last week, I had a pretty terrible hot take. I thought somebody was going to get in a fight. So that was kind of
that's right.
I was really looking forward. I think I was just hoping that Tyrrell Hatton, they doubled 18, and I thought I was going to get it on Sunday. I thought that they were going to kill each other, but that didn't happen, which was really, really unfortunate. Everybody had level heads. Everybody played nice together. So that was fine. Hot take this week. I'm just gonna throw it out there. This is kind of a hot take because he's been playing like absolute garbage. He is underneath 6,500, but Bo Hostler is going to make the cut. My Southern California brethren, Bo Hostler making a cut, decent enough odds that you're getting out in the betting market too. Bo Hostler, get hot with the putter one time, my dude.
That's fair. I was wondering how, Bo Hostler to make a cut is a hot take at this point, so that qualifies. I didn't know if you were going to say something really crazy, and you didn't. So I respect that. This
is the most tempered I've ever been with my hot takes. But Bryson tried to miss a cut for me, but third time we're just going to say Bo makes a cut.
Build it up. I don't remember my hot take last week. I think there was a chance it was Euline top 5, and if that's the case, I'm on fire. So we're going to just go with that theme. I was going to get very intricate and say like a Scandinavian player is going to win the tournament. And that was just going to confuse everybody. So I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do, I am going to call for a top 5, and I'm going to take 2 players at the same price. I'm going to stick with the theme from last week. I've got Noren and Peter Euline. Both are at 7,300. And I think, again, Peter Euline, I'm going to ride this wave, and I'm going to add Noren in there. I think one of these guys can truly get in contention. Euline's been in contention 2 weeks now. One was on the Korn Ferry Tour. Noren hasn't flashed much, but again, at Heritage, 25th, plus 3.5 with the approach, plus 3.5 around the green. Give me that formula. He can get in the mix here. I think if Noren ever does break through, it's going to be when the winning score is like 10 under, not 20 under. I think that's what we see here today. So that's my hot take. Somebody at 7,300, particularly those two, gets in the mix. We've got some good ones from chat. Rasmus top 20. That's a good one. Kevin Stadler. That's, that doesn't even qualify, but I still appreciate it. On that note, any final thoughts for the viewers, Mr. Lindquist?
No, it's good to have some individual golf back. I did enjoy the 2-mans, but it was a difficult thing to break down. This is a little bit more straightforward. Best of luck, everybody. Check out those pro plays. Get on top of everybody that Alex is recommending. Therefore, you can be aligned with the number 1 player in the world.
That's perfect way to end the show. And I will just say, The last thing, if you have any questions, get in Slack, follow us on Twitter. The handles are on the screen, and sign up for an Awesemo Plus. Even if it's just a PGA Weekly, it's only $3.95. You get inside, you sign up for Slack, you get to check out some of those tools and see if you want to maybe up it for more. We believe that you will. You have nothing to lose. So come on in, even if it's just for the week. We'd love to have you. So on that note, we're going to bounce on out of here. Good luck, my friends. Enjoy, and we'll be back next week for Quail Hollow, one of the best tournaments of the year. See you then.
Maybe Rory needs to go back to the center shafted putter from Quail Hollow.
Yeah, that was Rory Quail Hollow days were peak everything.
That was one of my favorite